So what do you do when your car has a horn that doesn't work? Well, you'll need it for MOT. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to get that going from this broken to working. So I'll show you how to test your old horn to see if that's working or not, and then how to wire in a new horn. This would be more like a quick fix. I would always recommend that you buy a horn that actually does fit your car. I'm just fitting a generic one here that does not fit this car, but I've just made it fit this car for the purposes of this video and for the purposes of just keeping the car roadworthy while the new horn arrives. In my case, it's going to take a few weeks for that to arrive. This car's getting old now. I can't get an aftermarket one here. A lot of places won't ship to Northern Ireland. Main dealer's only 20 quid, so I'm happy to wait a couple of weeks and use this in the meantime. But what I will say is this will only work if it's your horn that's broken. If you have a wiring issue, I'll show you how to test for that. But if you do have a wiring issue, you'll be on your own to find exactly where that is. So let's get into it. So the principle of this horn will work on any car that has a switch style horn, where it literally has a physical switch. Some horns just have a relay, which can be a little bit different. But in any case, if you still have the plug and the plug is still working, it shouldn't make too much of a difference. But in this case, what I want to do first is just make sure that the wiring is all intact that goes to the horn, power and ground. So first things first, we need to remove this headlight because that's underneath. There's 2 screws on the headlight itself. So just to show a little bit of the configuration of the headlight, there's a tab here which kind of like locks in. Then there's this screw. Take that all the way out. There's another screw down the bottom here. And then at the bottom of the headlight, there's a little clip from the bumper. So the reason that we removed these 3, 1, 2, and 3, is just so that we can pull that up there. You can see the headlight is pretty much free. It shouldn't really be that easy to remove. There should be another screw down here in the bumper, but I could feel it with this headlight even in position. When you give it a little rock like that, you can feel a bit of movement on this side. Usually people don't realise that screw's in there and then it gets snapped. And that's it, essentially free. Now we just need to unplug it. So just need to get everything unplugged. These little flick style ones, you just depress the tab at the top and then they should come right out like that. And then you've got the H7 over there, just on clips. And then right at the very top here, just got another pull tab, and then it should just flick off. So it's these tabs here that you basically pull that bit there up, and then you slide the plug back. Headlight out. So just to undo this horn, there's a 13 on this. There we go. You can see our plug here. Just get that undone. Oh, there was a washer on it. Ow. Drop something into the bumper and you usually never find it again. Okay, well, note to self, there's a washer on that, so be careful. Okay, so just to unplug these, you just depress this wire cage, and then you pull the connector back. Although if yours is really stuck like mine is, I find it easy just to remove that completely. There we go. Do not lose that. There we go, that's better. There. Can we see in there? There's a little bit of corrosion on there. I actually think the torch, believe it or not, isn't helping you to see it. See where some parts of it are darker? That's where it's making contact. The other bits are all greeny and crusty. And the inside of this plug is no better. You can see it's got like a similar hue to the colour of the car. or to the moss that's been underneath there. You can see that greeny colour in there. So definitely got some corrosion. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's the problem. What we will do is we'll get a test light and we'll check the power and ground side of that just to make sure that it is getting power and ground. And if it is, then the likelihood is we just have a blown horn. So just inside here, where these green and yellow cables go to, just where my finger is there, see where this goes to? This is basically a grounding point. You can see it more clearly like that, just there. So we'll find a grounding point, and then once we've got a good ground, we will double check our connection on these live terminals down here, and the test light should light. So if the ground finds a power, it will light. So the reverse is also true. These are the positive cables, the actual batteries inside the car on these Xsara Picassos. It's underneath the passenger seat, I believe. So this one here, we've got the power now. Now this is where I would tend to be a bit more careful. So this is where I might tend to be a little bit more careful, is I've looked up a wiring diagram so I know which one is which. So we have this connected to the power. So if we have a good ground, we should find it. And on this one here, it's pin 2. See that? We're lighting up. So we've got good ground. So ground, not a problem. Nice bright test light. Nice 12 volts. So do we have a power? No, we don't. So does that mean that we have a broken wire? Probably not, because what this doesn't show us is it with the switch depressed. So it only draws current when the switch is depressed, which at the moment there's no one in there pressing it. So does it make sense that there's no power on this? It makes absolute sense. So what we need to do is rig this up so that the test light stays inside the pin, and then go inside the car and press the horn and then come back and see if the test light lights. Now on this car, now that I've got this rigged up, this is what we like to call a hot wire. So it's always live. The only time it isn't live is when the switch isn't engaged. So even with the key of the car out of the ignition, which it won't be, you know, it will be out of the ignition, will be ignition off. We're going to test that and see if it lights up. So we can see that the test light lit up, which means we have good power, we have good ground, so there's absolutely no reason why the horn shouldn't work, which means we probably just have a blown horn. So what we need to do now is wire in a new horn and then be done with things. So this is what we have at the moment. This is just some old cable that I've got lying around. So I've just stripped one end and I've stuffed it in there with a little bit of the insulation in, so that it's like a fairly tight connection in there. And then what I'm just going to do is put some electrical tape over this temporarily. I will order a proper horn, but just for the time being, just to get this one here working, because you can't really drive a car for 3 weeks without a horn. You never know when you're going to need it. There's a lot of idiots on the road. So make sure these are like nice and tight, and then I can connect up these 2 other ends to our temporary horn and get that wired in also. So now I've got these 2 here complete. Just put a little spade connector on the end of it to put it onto my little cheapo horn and see if it works. So this will be the real test. Obviously it doesn't matter if I touch them together right now because there's no power, but you would want to make sure that these 2 never touch when you depress the horn, because obviously it will short out. I say obviously, that might not be obvious to some people, but if you did touch them together they would indeed short out. So, and the same thing goes for the plug. You want to make sure none of the copper piping, the copper core are touching. So we'll just pop our little horn there for a minute, and then we'll go and press the horn and see if it works. Let's do this. That's the stupidest sounding horn I've ever heard, but it works! Happy days. Right, now I'm just going to bolt it back up. See, this is why, I mean, if you wanted to do a real nice job of that, you would have to cut this connector off down here. Obviously, I'm not going to leave it like that for long. It would just be for a couple of weeks while I'm waiting for parts to arrive, because it's Christmas time, so nothing's arriving soon. But I would never suggest leaving something like that permanently, and I wouldn't even leave it just like that. I'm gonna take that up and make sure that nothing moves or gets caught up or bound or twisted, just to make sure nothing can short out and do more damage. We don't need that in our life. So I've just got that fitted, pushed all the wiring out of the way, And then once you've refitted it, obviously make sure that the horn is still working, make sure nothing's come dislodged, and now that's it. So all we'll have to do next is just put this headlight back in, put the bumper screws back in, and then she'll be good to go for a little while. I will repair this. This is the bit that's broken. You can see when that snaps, you can feel the side of the headlight flex a little bit. So the third screw for the headlight is there, and you access it by removing the bottom of the airbox. There's a small plenum down there. You remove that, and you access that by removing the little bit of under tray in the wheel arch liner. So that's how you get to that one there. You don't actually need to remove the side wing or the bumper itself or anything like that. So, but I'll probably try and glue that back on with some special glue. But I'll wait until I've got the new horn to sort that out. But that's it. Happy days and some good safe motoring. So just a couple of pro tips. When you order your new horn, obviously don't lose the spring clip, don't lose the washer or the nut. What I like to do is tape them to something so that they definitely won't get lost, or put them inside a little bag or something and pop them in the glove box so you definitely won't lose them. Don't leave them loose, because you'll almost certainly lose that little thing there, and then your horn can just pop off at any time. Another little tip, obviously there's two plugs there, and you've got your big plug for your H7 bulb. But there's one right up there that's easy to miss. It's kind of like hidden, hard to see, so don't forget to plug that one in as well.